Hello and welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. So let us take a look on this whole issue as Zimbabwe. The biggest question is, did Tagwirei fund the 2017 coup? The answer is simple, no. I don't agree with the general on most issues, but I disagree with the notion that Tagwirei funded the 2017 coup. It was never funded by Kuda. I'm going to explain the role of Tagwirei and what he did. So, the military moved in November 2017, took over or grabbed the power from Robert Mugabe, and they used the code called Operation Restore Legacy. There is a reason why Themba Mliswa is running around throwing the names of military figures like SB Moyo. Is because he wanted the stories of Tagwirei to have more credibility. If he say, I've been talking to SB Moyo, I was in touch with SB Moyo all along, we were working together, we were very involved, all of us together, it then becomes an issue, okay, so, people will believe that indeed the military received some funding from Cuba. So Lin says ED came to power via a full-blown coup d'etat that was funded by Kuda. So there was a full-blown coup d'etat which happened in Zimbabwe, but it was not funded by Kuda. Only Mnangagwas activities were funded by Kuda. Let me explain. So we go back to 2004, the Cholocho Declaration. Whatever which happened, there was an agreement that if things go wrong, inini ndinda kabata chimuti, I can save everyone else, which means protect me. Vamwe vese nyurai, but inini ndichengetedzei. Since I have links within the CIO and the security apparatus and the judiciary, what is going to happen is I will make it a point that you won't be charged with treason. I will make it a point that you won't be assassinated by the CIO or the MI. That was the whole issue from the side ED since Cholocho. So all the people who participated in Cholocho had the guarantees that their political careers might get to an end, but even their personal life and everything else, including the probability to go to jail, they will be protected by ED as long as he remains there within. Jonathan Moyo vakatengeswa, Mnangagwa disowned everybody, Cholocho Declaration, it failed. Fast forward to the removal of Grace Mugabe, we know ED through Vanakuba, they were funding each and everything. Chakanga Chitika, smear campaigning Joyce Mjuru, the elimination of General Mujuru, they funded it all. And they closed each and every loophole, each and every gap. They successfully did it. They used money to pay the investigators, to pay the judiciary, to pay the intelligence officials. We know about that. But no one cares to say about it or talk about it. Okay. Fast forward to the days Mnangagwa and Grace Mugabe were fighting the G40 versus Lacoste. There were flashy groups zakatanga kungonyuka nyuka, zakatanga kungobuda buda, zakanga zichita tuma petty demonstrations in Harare. But what was happening, there were key individuals, groups imomo, vakanga vachiziva zvese zvakanga zvichiitika, who were being paid neteam Lacoste, being protected neteam Lacoste. Pakada lawyers were being paid neteam Lacoste through a certain lawyer in Harare. So you could see that when everything was happening, it's Cuba who was funding zvese zvakanga zvichiitika zvimagemu zvese zvekudonedza Robert Mugabe. We had challenges, currency challenges, my currency shortages, It was a game yakanga chitambwa nana Kuba together nearipo. They were playing all that, making sure kuti there is no currency in Zimbabwe. Vanhu havagoni kuti vange vachiwana mari. They were holding all the cash. Working with John Mnangagwa, they presented fake advice to President Mugabe and said, let us introduce a new currency. Let us start to introduce our own money. Ndo patiri kuona pachitangwa kuunzwa chainzi bond. But bond richuya, it was 1:1. It was not a currency per se, but yainzi imari irikuya uzobeka US dollar. For every piece of US dollar you have, wapiwa piece re bond. That is how they were going to finance the coup which they were planning in Zimbabwe. So they were using those avenues to fund that coup. And fast forward, people were angry. Unenda ku eco cash, unonzi mari yako kuti ibude tokubatra 35%, kuti mari yako ibude tokubatra 40%. People became angry, people became agitated. You go into the banks, there is no money. But there was John Mnangagwa at the center of everything as the RBZ governor. Ndiye akanga achitamba tsoro dzese achisunga mari. Urikuzoona kuti people vatinavo like vana GG, these are the people who were called renowned bankers. Vakanga variko together with others, ndo vanhu vakanga vachitamba chigame ichocho chekusunga mari, vachisunga vachitswinya, so as to make sure that people became agitated and they become angry against the government. Then plan yavo yabudirira. Politically, they lost to Grace because she had the arsenal, she had all the apparatus of the intelligence at her disposal. She could use each and everything against them. So Grace was winning politically. Grace was winning. Then what really happened is, there is a man called Jonathan Moyo. Jonathan Moyo is a man who was well placed within the G40. Jonathan Moyo is a man who could go to Grace, whisper some words to Grace Mugabe. And remember, Jonathan Moyo at a certain point in time was defeated, was fired. After Adzingwa, someone helped him to win. So as an independent candidate, no relevant, the same party. The same person Jonathan Moyo win as an independent candidate is the same person Nas. So Jonathan Moyo comes, he's working with the faction called the G40, Nana Kasukwere, Nana Grace, Nevangwe. What was happening is, Jonathan Moyo started to bring some documents dzainopiwa kuseri ouya nadzo otanga kudzipresenta. It was presented in in cabinet, in Politburo. The document, the Blue Ocean document, it was presented. You know, ndo mamiriro akaita zvinhu aya. Vakuru ndobva vatanga kuzviramba. And Jonathan Moyo would go with information to Grace, itaiso. And Emerson would attend each and every rally. Jonathan would advise Grace kuti roai munhu panongonya. And at the end of the day, you see that they were propelling Emerson's takeover. So General Chiwenga is out of the country. Okay, let's start with the sickness of ED. ED becomes sick. No one knows if he was really poisoned or not. No one knows. Or no one dares to say the truth. He's airlifted, gets public sympathy. There is a prophecy which was given well in time by somebody who is now an ally of AD right now. So people who ask the question, was this a prophecy or something else? And then we are at a point where Mnangagwa is getting sympathy from the military because everyone is agitated, everyone is thinking kuti zvinamira zvakanaka zvakadhakwa mudhara ari kutadza. Izvo there was internal sabotage yakanga ichibva kuna aripo izvezvi. things were not moving because ndiye akanga sabotage from within. Imagine kuti murikuedza tidai you are being sabotaged from within. You won't go anywhere. Then we are getting to a point where General Chiwenga is in China, and when General Chiwenga is in China, Jonathan Moyo, who was known to be very close to Grace Mugabe, calls Grace and say, Grace, zvinaumira zvakanaka chakatochaya mudhara vatobviswa pachigaro. So to avert that, arrest the general, vachingosvika chete arrest him kuchina kwavanga vatoenda vanga vatoenda kunokumbira mablessings ekuti vabvise baba vaRobert Mugabe pachigaro. Saka vatopiwa that approval. When General Chiwenga learns there is an attempt to arrest General Chiwenga, Mugabe does not know what was happening. The biggest mistake of Robert Mugabe is afurirwa through ana Jonathan Moyo kunzibvisa Epiton Bonyongwe as the CIO director, abviswa auyiswa mugovernment, akoptwa mugovernment as a minister, which means information now which is now going to Robert Mugabe is now begged, because munakanga achiprotecta Robert Mugabe achimpa the real intelligence, abviswa kwasara vanhu vari kupa false intelligence to Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe was no longer receiving the much needed intelligence. They were now compromised. There were now people who were working for Robert Mugabe. There were now people who were working for Varipo. So everything is now compromised. Information and intelligence is no longer reaching the intended destination as it is. Yakutanga yambosvika kuna Grace. The difference of Bonyongwe and others is Bonyongwe would go directly to Robert. Even Grace akazodaidzwa akazouya, but he would talk to Robert very rega. So it was more effective. But the removal of Bonyongwe, vachifurirana nana Jonathan Moyo, vanasaka sukwere, they were the backbenchers. Havana chavainzwisisa, havana chavaiziva, they were running from behind. And I do not know why Kasukwere, as a former intelligence man, why is it that he failed to pick what was really happening, what was really transpiring? It's probably because he was hated by other juniors in the CIO. That is the biggest probability. We have people like JP Jabun, they had a potential to have quick access to some information because of their links in the CIO through Manzmai Ao, but they never had that chance to get to that because for certain reasons. So, Robert Mugabe does not know which general varongerwa kusungwa. And then general comes tomorrow, he blasts Robert. Instead of Robert Mugabe to summon General Chiwenga immediately, Robert Mugabe issued a statement, or pakatanga kutoshandiswa vana Chipanga and everyone else kuti vaende kunotukirira mageneral kuwedzera kutsamwisa. Imagine if Epiton Bonyongwe had not been captured, if Epiton Bonyongwe had remained in the CIO as the director, at one of that in each and every piece of intelligence of what was happening, and is giving that intelligence to Robert Mugabe directly, the coup would not have happened. So out of panic, the generals organized a coup. I'm telling you, from first-hand information, Terence Shiri himself describes this issue as at Afa. He describes this issue. He was talking to my uncle then. My uncle was the captain. So they're talking, and the parents is saying, we didn't know that we were going to do or to conduct a coup. Only Chiwenga knew. So it was a meeting where they were supposed to deal with certain issues. Zakanga zisma development zakanga aripo. How do we see Robert? How do we talk to Robert? Robert at this point in time is avoiding to meet with the generals because Vanakanga were in charge of the intelligence. We're not telling the truth. We're actually misleading Robert Mugabe and making sure that he does not meet with the generals before they make a move. No plan yakanga iripo. So when you are seeing this coup happening, it was out of panic. The general had no plans. Formulate a government. Say he had no plans whatsoever. He calls an SB very, very quickly. Everybody runs around. Say they talk to the media, they talk to the opposition. They did things very, very quickly. Little did they know that kune vanhu vakanga vakatogara vakatoronga dhiri ravo, vakanga vachironga meti dzavo. Yes, they were military insiders vakanga vachishanda netimu iri, but magenerals akanga asiri kuziva zvinhu zviri kuitika. So their brigadiers who knew what was happening, but the generals didn't know kuti chichanga chiitika. So for somebody to come and say this coup was funded, it wasn't. Matenga akabuda, they were obsolete. Matenga ayaya rimwe rakatofa muhodhi, rimwe rakaita sei. But because everything was compromised, the intelligence dzacho dzaifana kuprotecta Robert Mugabe dzadziri compromised again, they didn't have much time to coordinate and to fight back. Vakanga vachifungidzirwa kuti these are the people who were going to protect Robert Mugabe. They were eliminated ipapo quickly with the help of vamwe vakanga vakatogara shanda nevene. Jonathan Moyo played a very critical role, and to cleanse himself, he had to come and bash Emmerson Mnangagwa, write books about Emmerson Mnangagwa. All of a sudden, he is now turning back Lakuirana Mnangagwa and ask the question, Makuirana Pakuita say. So we are not naive, we are not blind. Kudakwashe Tagwirei funded the Lacoste faction, not the coup which happened in Zimbabwe. So facts are facts, let it remain just like that.